Hello everyone, welcome to the Microdesk webinar series. My name is Megan Pulligar. I'm the Marketing Manager here at Microdesk. Welcome to today's webinar, What's New in 2013, Media and Entertainment Solutions for the AEC Industry. For those of you who aren't familiar with us, Microdesk is an Autodesk Gold, Oracle, and Google partner. We provide technology training and consulting solutions for the AEC industry. We have 12 offices located throughout the East and West Coast with a staff of over 90 consulting and technical specialists. Presenting today's session, we have with us Microdesk Senior Consultant, Leo Saltz. Leo is an architect and a consultant with Microdesk. He specializes in helping firms implement BIM technology with both Revit and AutoCAD-based platforms and integrating sustainable design applications into their workflow. He has developed BIM and CAD standards and advanced visualizations for numerous design firms and government agencies. Just a few logistics before we begin. In order to minimize any background distractions, you are all on mute for the duration of the session. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the question area of the webinar toolbar to the right of your screen. Leo will address as many questions as we can after the presentation. If we run out of time, we will provide you with our contact information so you can follow up with us. The new Autodesk 2013 products have come a long way. Over the next hour, we will take a look at just how far Autodesk solutions for media and entertainment solutions have come and dive into the best new feature of 3ds Max, 3ds Max Design, Sketchbook Designer, and Showcase. These programs have the ability to significantly improve integration, collaboration, and interoperability. And now I'll turn it over to Leo.
Thank you, Megan. Well, hello everybody. Again, my name is Leo Saltz, and today we're going to talk about M&E for AEC. So all these acronyms, let's see what they mean and what they do, and let's talk a little bit about functions of these applications and how they integrate into the workflow. So first things first, the reason that we're mentioning a specific set of tools is number one, because they are part of what they call the suites. And as you know, and if you've been using Autodesk products for a while, you'll see that there's what they call the building design suites that are related to architects, engineering, and the construction industry. So if you see on this particular slide, there are different versions of the suite that includes different applications. So if you notice among all of them, or at least a very common ground, you'll see that there's applications that are specific to visualization, such as Showcase, Sketchbook Designer, and 3ds Studio Max. So each one has a specific approach into how it's implemented into somebody's workflow. And another reason that we're mentioning is because if you are somebody that is using AEC applications that are specific to the media and entertainment, more on the graphics side of things or computer graphics in terms of animation and maybe more character-driven, then also you'll see that in the Entertainment Creation Suite, there's also 3ds Studio Max and Sketchbook Designer. So there's pretty much common ground among all different design suites that are available, even on the different side of different trades like the factory design suite, the plant design suite, and so forth. So no matter what kind of trade you're in, there's a very good chance that you're going to have these applications already part of the suite. So first things first, let's start with Sketchbook Designer. The one thing that people ask me a lot of the times is, what does that do? And the first thing that you see is pretty much an illustration tool that allows you to enable anybody, whether you're a designer or an artist, to use a hybrid of a paint and vector workflow to generate concept design, illustration, and graphic design. So it's a very user-friendly tool, and within its intuitive, creative environment, anybody can be productive in minutes. So you don't have to be an expert in order for you to start generating anything. And what is it used for? Well, it's very especially powerful for pen and mouse-based illustration, assembly and composing images, graphic communication, and concept design and iteration. So I'll mention a few of the examples in just a minute so you can see kind of the potential of this tool. Now, the one thing that you should know is that Sketchbooks has a family of tools. So there are Sketchbook for mobile software, so you will see that it's available for iPhone, iPod Touch, for Android devices. So pretty much you can sketch in anywhere and take your work anywhere on the fly. So you can download those. There's even a free version for those applications, so you can see that there's a Sketchbook Designer from the Google Play or the library that you can find. Also, there's the same, there's other versions for the Sketchbook Pro for iPad and Android tablet, specifically designed for the tablet experience. But one of the things that people ask me is, can I use this with a mouse? Definitely you can, but it's really, you're really enhancing the experience by using a tablet or some kind of device that use a pen stylus. There's also the Sketchbook Pro software for Mac and Windows, and different sketchbook variations, which I'm going to talk about in just a minute. So the one thing that you should know is that there's different key features that make Sketchbook Designer a great tool. Number one, it's intuitive and fast user interface. That means that the learning curve is really fast. People can get up to speed with this tool super fast and very easy. It's pretty artist friendly for anybody that does concept artists, illustrations, or anybody that does any kind of design. And the best part of all, is compatible with Photoshop. So it uses it's compatible with the PSD format, that is Photoshop's native format, and that means that you can create layers within Sketchbook Designer and be able to work on it in Photoshop. Again, it allows designers to pretty much use a set of tools that are pretty compatible with the type of work that they do. Now, another great thing is that Sketchbook Designer is also available for AutoCAD. So the DWG interoperability means that it enriches AutoCAD workflows with integrated illustration and graphics inside of AutoCAD. So you can pretty much dynamically move geometry and image content across AutoCAD and Sketchbook Designer. So you can go back and forth between the two and produce rich presentations, content throughout the design process. And of course, you can manipulate existing images to quickly express new concepts. So here, I'll just show you a few examples of illustration and concept art as well as design. And some of the key features that you'll see is that it uses vector layers with robust curve creation and editing capability. It allows for dynamic image manipulation, which means that you can warp images. It also allows for anybody to do pretty early conceptual sketches and then move on into a more shaded version of the drawings, especially because it uses a superior shading engine underneath. Again, you can also use this on any kind of level of illustration. So again, it can be used for stage design, it can be used for architectural conceptual studies, and so forth, and that can be integrated with AutoCAD if that's one of your design tools. Again, it has a very, very impressive shading engine, so it means that it supports a lot of things like procedural materials, which I'm going to show in a minute. So again, it can be used for design purposes, where you can actually take this design and draw with the help of different tools that allow to draw in a more linear and more accurate representation. So you can take drawings that are drawn here, bring them into AutoCAD and start dimensioning, or you can even start annotating certain things here if you wanted to. And of course, it provides that integration between images and the drawing sketches and the layers and so forth. So in the end, it gives you a very good looking quality result. So for those of you who already used it, what can you say that is new in 2013? What can we now mention that are improvements and things that were not available before? Well, first thing is the improved what they call the improved user experience. So right now, there's a whole set of interface changes that you'll see that just the way that you experience the viewport has changed dramatically, and you'll see that in a second. Also, there's a few things in terms of icon improvements and the layout for windows and editors. And of course, the hotkeys have been improved in the way that you can now quickly assign customizable hotkeys. And the canvas settings, you can now create and set preferences to customize your default canvas size. And of course, a few other things I'm going to mention in a second is that Sketchbook Pro is now included with the Sketchbook Designer. So people ask me, what is the difference between Pro and Designer? Pretty much one is vector-based, the other one is pixel-based. So pretty much you're working on the Designer one, working with just pixels, and when you're working on Pro, and you can go back and forth, you're working now with vectors just like if you were doing AutoCAD line work. Again, there's a lot of enhancements in color adjustments for layers, libraries, canvas sizes, the grid editor, and of course now you have substance texture support. For those of you who don't know what substance materials are, in 3 Studio Max, there's this new library that was enhanced and introduced over the last couple of years that allow you to work with smart materials that adjust to any changes that happen to the geometry, and they're parametric. So you'll see an example in just a second. And of course, you can export the imagery that comes out of Sketchbook Designer into DXF files. So in case you need to bring that into other programs like AutoCAD or Revit, you're able to do so. So among the things that I mentioned, canvas settings, preference to customize default canvas sizes. You can also work on different preferences in terms of if you want to work on grids, if you want to work for a story mode, and so forth. So it's now giving you a lot more choices to begin with when you are starting. And now you have user-defined grids, which means that you can set the user grids for reference and snapping, square, singular, or two-point perspective grids. Very cool and very easy. And you're working in a 2D environment. Also new to the new 2013 is there's a lot of enhancements in colors. So you can now do color adjustment, Apple color adjustment to layers and layer folders, adjust things like you normally do in Photoshop, like brightness, contrast, saturation, lightness, and inverting colors and so forth. So pretty cool. And it has now what they call Copic colors, which include the Copic color system. Other things, and this I mentioned a minute ago, is the procedural texture fields, which means that you can now think of it like hatch an image, but that hatch, if you change the warp of the different lines surrounding it, it automatically stretches and is very easily manipulated. And when I mention procedural textures, in this case substance materials, they're parametric. So you can see that on the right side, you can parametrically change properties about this particular material, like the intensity, the tile pattern, and so forth. Very, very cool, especially because you're working on 2D and kind of recreating a 3D environment. Again, one thing that is new is Sketchbook Designer now comes in with Sketchbook Pro, which again, for those of you who only had Sketchbook Pro, now you have the best of both worlds. So you have the two tools available to you when you first launch the program. Very cool. And again, those are kind of the main features that are enhanced in the Sketchbook Designer application, which is available for pretty much all of the different suites in the Autodesk realm, from the entertainment creation suite to the building design and so forth. So that being said, the next application is part of the building design suite. This one is not available in the entertainment one. Is what they call Showcase. The first thing that you would ask if you haven't seen this tool is, what is Showcase? Well, think of it as a visualization and exploration tool. But then you ask, why would I ever use Showcase if I have another program that does rendering like 3 Studio Max, or if I have another program that does rendering maybe within my design tool like AutoCAD or Revit? Well, what it does is it takes the CAD designs or intelligent models in 3D into a 3D immersive presentation quickly and easily. So think of it like a virtual showroom to bring not only a product but maybe the entire design, like an interior room or the entire building. So you can explore design options. You can work with real-time design iterations. I would say the biggest thing is the navigation part of things within the tool, and also the ability to do kind of real-time rendering. Instead of waiting for the program like 3 Studio Max to process an image after you assign all these different calculations and settings, here you're getting kind of instant feedback based on changing certain things that are graphic, like the materials and the lighting. So again, it can be used for real-time design iterations, whether it's geometry, material, positional variations of the geometry, lighting, and the environment in the background. You can also use it for conveying a story. So you can easily, similar to SketchUp, generate different camera shots and then convey story and generate an animation out of it, kind of like a presentation tool as well. You can create very immersive 3D presentations. And the best part is you can work in real time with team members and customers. So you can log in and kind of at the same time review the model as you're navigating it, and use it for making design decisions as you're navigating through the model. And of course, make decisions on the fly, whether they're in the same room or across the world. That's a good thing, because it supports HTML5. HTML5, you can actually navigate and export this into a web-based web-based system. So again, it has well, it's easy to navigate. It gives you photo quality visuals due to the rendering technology that it uses. It provides a quick animation and narrative. You can change things like the lighting, materials, and environments on the fly. So a few things that you should see here is kind of so you can get a glimpse of what Showcase does. is you can take a model, whether it comes from AutoCAD, Revit, or even 3 Studio Max, and it allows you to change things on the fly to make decisions that affect the way that the design is looking. So whether it's looking at the whole 3D model or maybe just changing cut plane to generate a section of the space, just like you see on this particular slide, you can go from different visual styles to another option, so that way you can maybe convey the idea in a more in a specific manner. So it gives you a lot of flexibility in the way that you present, whether it's just using default shading mode, hidden line mode, or just actual real texture material. And the best part is you can make design iterations. So what that means is you can go from one look of, let's say in this case, material, just testing it right there on the fly by selecting that particular wall, and then go and test back and forth the different options and see which one looks better and which one works for the design intent. So again, very powerful because it gives you instant feedback, and again, it has a lot of potential to work with the different applications you currently use. So that being said, what's new in the 2013 version that, if you already started using this tool, allows you to now improve your workflow? Well, in the 2013 release, what they did was they have 4 main themes: usability and time for compelling results, suites experience workflow, design exploration with new measurement tools, and presentations in the Autodesk 360 that now supports an export presentation to an iPad, for instance. So usability, extended localization support for the suites workflow, interactive measurements, that is a new one, and cloud publishing. So talking about workflows, just as I just said, Showcase now supports one-click interoperability with applications like AutoCAD, Revit, and Inventor. So if you're working in Revit and you simply go to the Suites tool, Suites workflow feature, you'll notice that there's an option that will tell you send to Showcase. And let's say in Inventor or AutoCAD, there's that Suites workflow menu that you have the option to create a Showcase concept presentation or animation from within Revit, AutoCAD, or Inventor constraints, and create a realistic presentation. And the materials, the lighting are preserved, as well as the geometry. This integration will mean that you will have access to start your design iterations from within your design tool. Other things that I mentioned in regarding to the interoperability, the 2013 now supports multiple features within Inventor. There was some Inventor interoperability back in the old release, but there's a limitation that you could not only import one constraint, now you can do multiple if you want to. And it also supports AutoCAD XREFs, AutoCAD Object Enablers, AutoCAD MEP, and architecture objects, as well as AutoCAD viewing coming from AutoCAD Showcase shots. Navigation and hotkeys. One of the last things to mention regarding the Suites workflow, and this is great, is that Showcase has adopted all the navigation hotkeys and behaviors of Revit, Inventor, and AutoCAD. So it means that people coming from Inventor, Revit, or AutoCAD, one of those, are used to a certain way of navigating, and now Showcase supports the exact same navigation. So if you're using the shortcut for saving, for maybe moving around, panning, they're all the same way that you do in Showcase than it is in AutoCAD. So it means that it also forces us to move to some of the hotkeys we had before, and it reduces the learning curve for users getting up to speed with the tool, and ease of use maintaining a standard across the board. So web mobile presentations, this is excellent because you can view the Showcase models anywhere as long as you have connection to the internet. So one very exciting feature in Showcase 2013 is the ability to present on a web or mobile devices such as an iPad, or even using Autodesk 360 services for the cloud. You can publish your Showcase presentation locally or send it to the Autodesk 360 service and then open it in an iPad, for instance. Providing mobility allows for simplicity in taking your designs with you and presenting them anywhere you want, where you need it. So this is great for anybody that even wants to access the models that they have for a particular project anywhere in the world, and keeping kind of going with them anywhere they go. So instant visual gratification, this is what I was saying. Some of the massive changes that were made to Showcase 2013 are in what they call the instant visual gratification. There's a lot of features that you see in render programs and render engines, such as indirect illuminations, tone mapping, exposure control. A lot of this functionality has been around for a long time in the 3D visualization tools like Maya, 3 Studio Max, but they're now integrated into Showcase, so you can now get real quick, great quality in calculation by simply bringing the model. And for example, a brown brick should look like a bright sunny day, or how white paint should look like in a room, or an accent light should, how it should look in a night scene, making sure that the materials are displayed correctly. So this functionality can easily create a photorealistic scene more easily and more precise than before. Very, very cool. So you can get a lot of the controls that you had before for exposure, global illumination, shadows and edges, and so forth. So that's one of the, I think, the greatest features that they added in 2013. So in the screen, for example, you can see the exposure control on each of the images here. So most of these settings can also be found in animation tools like Max and Maya, just like I mentioned before. So you can control the way that the images look. And you can see that a scene can be changed easily from night scene or to a night scene, from night to a daylight scene, and you can see how it changes the lighting accents. Very, very great and very, very quick as well. So the instant visual gratification, I'd say, is the biggest thing in the 2013 version. It's pretty much recreating the real-time environment calculations that programs like Max and Maya has to process, and it gives you rapid ray tracing for simulating the shadows and so forth quickly. Of course, there's also new visual styles that are supported, like ambient shadows with edges that give you a very futuristic and very nice alternative look if you wanted to. And as I said at the beginning, there were dramatic changes done to the interface. So no longer do you have to import templates and go through a guided wizard task. Now you have a new toolbar that makes it easy for you to create image, movies, and interactive presentations. Basically, you just have to follow the steps, open a file, choose the lighting environment and background, and adjust the lighting. Then you can choose which visual style you want, photorealistic or non-photorealistic, and then you can play with materials, alternatives, and you can focus on publishing everything that you need for the presentation specifically. So again, in addition to the introduction of the new bar, other changes have been introduced in the user interface are selection colors. You can now import a model into Showcase, and it's not selected anymore. They have also updated the user interface to respect the position of the view cube and the navigation bar. In other words, the view cube and the navigation bar are not obstructing any of the menus anymore, which used to be one of the things that people were annoyed by. Also, you will notice that environments are now called lighting environments, and that they are now editable alternatives to the user changes. Now the alternatives are automatically created when you change the material and when you change position. So we now have more consistent behavior and very handy tools such as the exit mode. You can deselect anything selected, stop playing slides, and so forth. So there's a lot more improvements in terms of how you work around the model that you have internally, and there's a better and further integration with Photoshop, which now can export background layers, shadow layers, and effects layers. Very, very cool changes. So other features, just so we can conclude the Showcase presentation, you can now generate movies. Something that's changed is that you can publish, you can choose the output type with the same look and feel, whether it's from YouTube or web presentations. What that means is that you will take an even shorter time to convey the story by generating fast animations, saving you time and manual coordination. Very cool and very fast. And finally, one of the greatest things that they added was the ability to take a model from the compatible tools that I mentioned and be able to find new interactive measurement tools, which are particularly relevant for anybody that does not necessarily automotive, but anybody that works with products or anything that needs to be measured. So they can measure point-to-point distance, they can measure circle center and radius, and they can measure center-to-center distance. So again, there's this new interactive measurement tools that have been added to Showcase. So that being said, Showcase definitely has seen a lot of improvements in the new 2013 release, and a definitely closer integration with the other applications that you currently use for your workflow, such as design tools like AutoCAD, Revit, Inventor, and so forth. So with this one, then let's talk about 3 Studio Max. So 3 Studio Max and Max Design, which are pretty much the same package, just oriented to different markets. So Max is more tailored towards character animation versus Max Design, which is oriented towards building design industry. So again, they're the same applications. A lot of the enhancements are identical for both. It's just certain features may not be available for Max that they are for 3 Studio Max Design. But what we mentioned today is compatible for the two. So you'll see that the new features for Max and Max Design 2013 are the same no matter which version you use. So what are the options? Well, the first thing is similar to Showcase. They added a theme for the 2013. So what does 2013 release in 3 Studio Max focus on, and what are the main things? Well, the first one is something you may have heard already, which is called the rendering revolution. This is a notion that was introduced 2 years ago, and with the objective of to keep adding in every new release rendering quality, performance, and flexibility. So that means that you have choice of several render engines, and I don't know if you've seen, there was Quicksilver, there was iRay, and well, there's now the enhanced iRay, which I'll mention in a minute. So last year they introduced the iRay, which is smart rendering, and what that integration meant to a lot of people new to Max Design is that it really allowed to get more predictable photoreal results without worrying about any of the complex render settings. It's kind of like taking a point-and-shoot camera. So other things that you'll see that have been added are active shades for iRay, which makes possible to kind of preview interactive feedback directly from the viewport. Very, very cool. Another thing that they added was the exchange of data. So it means that now is very enhanced the way that the data exchange applies for 3 Studio Max and other applications that are not necessarily from the Autodesk realm, like AutoCAD, Revit, or Inventor. You now have a larger scheme of tools that are related to modeling, such as SolidWorks, Pro Engineer, but also on the editing level, such as for image graphics, like Adobe After Effects and Photoshop. Extend the support to a lot of those applications. So again, besides the rendering revolution for the new viewport performance, smart data, which is now further compatible with other applications or better enhanced interoperability, you also have better usability. So it means that you can now save your workspaces in case you customize certain things to work one way for you. So let's start talking about the specific features that I consider great and I would say changing in the way that you process things if you were used to using the tools. So for example, iRay. So iRay is one of the newer features that was introduced into 3 Studio Max, and it's been available for the last release. So some of you may have already tested this. The new thing that they added was the active shade, which provides interactive rendering sessions that constantly updates as changes are made to the cameras, lighting, materials, geometry, and so forth. The advantage of this is that the users can iterate more effectively, more quickly, and designers can make more efficient fine-tuned. They can more efficiently fine-tune their scene, making it faster and easier to achieve their intended look, thus reducing the feedback loop. So similar to Showcase, where you get instant feedback, you also can do that now within 3 Studio Max. As you're working in your model, you can activate iRay and you can display, depending on the graphic card that you have, it may support the iRay rendering within the viewport. So the Nitro Viewport is what allows it, and it gives is the same name of the new viewport system that was introduced last year. In order to provide dramatic improvements, what Nitro does is accelerates GPUs and multi-core workstations to enable users to handle larger data sets within with limited impact on the interactivity. So it's received quite a few enhancements. Among those, the ability to handle larger scenes with increased interactivity, support image-based lighting, HDRI, depth of field, and accelerated particle flow display. Improve support for shadows in larger scenes, and improve workflow for interior scenes. So again, it goes back to the graphic card. So if you do have a graphic card that supports this, you're definitely going to experience a dramatic change in the way you see a preview of your rendering within the viewport. So they now support what they call render path systems. So something that is tightly integrated with After Effects for those of you who use Adobe After Effects for what they call post-production or compositing, then you can now have what they call state sets, which is a new render path manager in 2013. And with it, scenes can now be more easily segmented for downstream compositing. Think of it like breaking up your scene into something that you can later on edit separately in the next application like After Effects. Like layers, like you would do with layers in Photoshop. And it has a state recorder, enables the user to capture, edit, and save current state. You can now show the compositing and render elements and see how they're wired together to create the final result. Very, very cool, and it's available now if you want to start using it. There's the After Effects interoperability that I mentioned. So now you can enjoy that workflow between the two and exchange through what they call the new media sync functionality, which provides a two-way transfer of cameras, lights, null objects, plane objects, solids, footage, including footage that is layered, blend modes, opacity, and effects, a lot similar to the Photoshop one. So if you are one of the over 1 million users that use After Effects, then you'll be pretty happy of this integration with 3 Studio Max. I'd say that's a big one. And of course, the support of Autodesk Direct Connect, which enables Max Design to work with industrial design data, such as models that come from AutoCAD, Inventor, but also the system SolidWorks or CATIA systems or Pro Engineer or Siemens PLM software and certain other applications. So it does now provide a wider range of support. And what's cool about it is that the data is imported as a native solid body object that can then be interactively reteslated as needed. So you can simplify the geometry that comes in. And now 3 Studio Max can refine the data until you get the precision that you need for the rendering. Pretty cool. And of course, enhanced interoperability with other tools such as Photoshop. As you may know, the enhanced interoperability was introduced last year with the subscription Advantage Pack. But regarding the Photoshop interoperability, what was added this year is the ability to output renderings in a layer PSD format that retains the layer order, opacity, blend modes, and so forth. So the interoperability with After Effects was also introduced last year, and with the new media sync functionality, also worked in a similar manner. But again, between After Effects and Photoshop, you can now focus on still imagery and footage for animation. Pretty cool enhancements. Of course, the Slate Compositing Editor allows you to work with the materials, so you can work. So you can pretty much define the schematic node-based interface and enable render layers and passes to be more easily wired together and combined for purpose of working either in Photoshop or in After Effects. In terms of enhanced interoperability, one of the biggest things on the AEC side of things in terms of working with design packages like Revit is you no longer have to convert your Revit files into FBX like you had to do in the previous version. So right now you can just use the Revit RBT file as it is and can now be directly imported into the 3 Studio Max Design or Max 2013, and users can select the data view choice to load from within the Revit file. Very, very cool, and you have access to it within the same design tools such as Revit. So within Revit you can now send to 3 Studio Max, or within Max you can simply say link Revit files. Another thing in terms of enhanced interoperability is that it does have, similar to the previous presets for rendering, you can now also have further integration for how the Revit is broken down in terms of how it's imported by category, by type, by material, and so forth. So the same thing. In terms of enhancements, there's certain things like for the DWG linking that now supports lights, daylight systems, and exposure control. So there's been some enhancements in terms of the render presets that are set up. Also, talking about interoperability, Civil 3D. So for those of you who use Civil 3D, any engineer that uses it for production work, you know that Civil View, which was added last year as part of the default installation, it doesn't come to install default. You have to install it. It now has improved support of other shapes, such as the X-shape profile for piping and tubing. So for those of you who haven't used it, Civil View, which now comes part of the 3 Studio Max design installation, I would encourage you to test it, because it does make a lot of things in terms of site design a lot faster to do, such as road markings, furniture such as street lights, even transportation. You can easily simulate vehicles animated over time, and with the specific speed and so forth. Very, very cool tool, and is available for you to use. Now, that was in regards to interoperability. How about other things such as customization of workspace? This is a great improvement in terms of usability, because now it allows you to, anybody that uses Max, to adjust the user interface the way they want to work, depending on the task you're doing and whether it's modeling, rendering, or animation, for instance. So pretty much you can select from a choice of default or custom workspaces, and each workspace can have individual settings for menus, toolbars, ribbons, viewport tab presets, and in addition, you can select a new workspace that can automatically execute a Max script. Very, very cool, and it's a new feature for 2013. So whether you're an artist or a designer or an engineer or an architect, you can easily now create kind of the way you want to work. And again, you have a lot to start with, and you can start defining workspaces, which have been around for a long time in AutoCAD, but now you have them available in 3 Studio Max. So tab layouts is something that before wasn't very customizable. You did have some way of changing things in Max, but an improvement in terms of usability is how you tab them. It allows you to create easily create and switch between several viewport layout configuration in order to have more efficient access to the views. I mean, you can still use the shortcuts and go from top to plan to front elevation to perspective view to camera, but this is very it does increase the workflow, because now the layouts can include both 3D and extended viewports, such as the animation graphics or more advanced charts if you wanted to, by pressing a hotkey. And you can pretty much share customized viewport tabs with other users, which makes it pretty cool. And finally, something that maybe on the Max side of things, not Max Design, you may want to hear about, there's the Mass Effects enhancements, which now you have a more dynamic tool set that allow you to work on things like the M-Cloth module that allows for turable fabric and support more dynamic ragdoll hierarchies. So pretty much improves constraints, better handling of pivot points, and the ability to improve the overall workflow, so you can create more advanced physics and animation effects. So other notable features, so at least you know that there's not just this, there's actually so much more that was introduced, but at least it points you in the right direction. In addition to these features that I just mentioned, 2013 has a number of additional features, such as the iRay enhancements, and now you support motion blur if you do videos. It supports IOR, index of refraction, faster exterior scene convergence. In terms of the workflow, it includes a number of improvements, such as the ability to manipulate the camera when cutting polygons during the creation process, enhancing the skin modifier, and so forth. 3 Studio Max Design 2013 now uses the Unicode standard, facilitating the shipment in multiple languages as a one executable. That way you don't have to download the English version or the Spanish version and so forth. So again, I could keep talking for another hour. There's so many features that are worth mentioning, but I wanted to at least focus on the ones that I know that are going to make a change and impact your workflow. And again, there's an actual theme to this year's new features. And again, improve interoperability. As you can see, you can now, with the suites, go from one tool to the next with very little effort, and also the improvement of workflow, how you used to collaborate and read the data. So now, let's say just with Max, the ability to work with all these different formats that weren't supported before, and even work better with these applications such as Photoshop and Adobe After Effects, it definitely is going to increase the way that you were used to do things, and you're going to see some return on investment in terms of productivity. So if you do have any questions, again, here, let me just show the slide so you can have the information. So I want to thank everybody for attending today's webinar, and I hope you found this helpful and educational. If you have any other questions or would like to learn more about any of the new Autodesk 2013 solutions or how to get started, just visit us at microdesk.com and the URLs you see here, or give us a call. Again, I want to thank you, and hopefully I see you on the next webinar.